Welcome. I am so excited that you are here with me today. This is the first session of Reset 2026 Sustainable Leadership Summit, and I'm hoping that this session is a great way to kick us off and make sure that your year this year is a year full of sustainable leadership. There are obviously sessions every day across this week, but today we are talking about conquering your number one confidence crusher, and that is your inner critic. As we go through today, there will be a live chat box to the side of this video, and I encourage you to pop any questions in. I will be sitting there waiting, ready to answer. So please feel free to reach out. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Bron Stevens. I'm a leadership expert and executive coach, and I work with high-performing women around getting the clarity and confidence they need for powerful leadership. And the reason I do that is because I want to see us dismantle outdated leadership models from the inside. And the way we do that is by leading powerfully as ourselves rather than like little men. And I'm really passionate about making sure as we do that, we are doing it as our whole selves and without these barriers to confidence that come up in our leadership and our life. And one of the big barriers to confidence is this inner critic. And that's why we're talking about this today. So, what are we talking about today? Obviously, the inner critic. We're going to get into what the inner critic is all about, why it exists, help you to understand kind of the brain chemistry that exists with it. And then we're going to talk about how to get to know your inner critic and what your inner critic is saying to you in the background on default all of the time. Then we're going to talk about how to actually start to own that. And instead of it running on default, you're starting to notice and rewire it. And finally, we're going to get you walking out of here with some great self-compassion exercises and able and ready to start moving past one of these big barriers to your confidence. If you haven't already, I strongly encourage you to grab the workbook. It's got lots of questions and resources in it. And as we go through today, it will become more and more relevant. If you haven't grabbed it, that's okay. There'll be another opportunity at the end, and I will ask you good questions to help you today anyway. So if you are sitting on an open plan floor right now watching this, I highly encourage you to jump up and move somewhere else. This is not a session to sit on the floor and watch. You do not want your colleagues and peers staring over your shoulder, because we are going to do some deep work, and I'm going to ask you to pause and reflect and actually do some work in this session, because I know you've blocked out this time. So if all I do is talk at you the whole time, you're not going to get the benefit. So we're actually going to be doing some live reflection and live work through this session. So let me tell you right now, as I'm sitting here, I can hear my inner critic in my head saying, Steve-O, no one's even going to turn up. This session is going to be crap. And I don't mind sharing with you that I was actually on a call with my co-host for the summit this week earlier today saying, is anyone else's inner critic kicking their ass? And we were all in exactly the same boat. Even though we rationally know that we're going to put together a quality content for you, we're going to give you real value throughout this week. We are all accomplished speakers and presenters and coaches, but our inner critic is still there. And so I want you to know that you're not alone, right? If you have a voice or a dialogue going on that is less than supportive, you are with good company, because it is a very, very common experience. Part of this is about normalizing that. And I want you to know that you are not alone and that everyone has this. And the reason that's important to understand is because this is a biological imperative. You know, this inner critic is always on, always picking at us, because it came from caveman days when safety and security were a huge issue. And if you socially stepped a foot wrong, then you were at risk of getting kicked out of the tribe. And if you got kicked out of the tribe, you died. And then you were also at risk at all times of a saber-toothed tiger around the corner, or a mammoth going to step on you, or a man waiting to beat you over the head and take you off to bear his children. the level of risk and the level of heightened awareness that was required meant that you had this default running in the background telling you constantly that you needed to be careful. And don't do that, people could be concerned about it, or don't do that, you'll upset someone. And that has carried through all the way through to today. And this critic is judging you, it's judging others, and it's judging situations. So whilst you're hearing criticism about yourself, it'll also rear its head up and say, this situation is terrible, this situation is dangerous, this situation is a problem. That person is the problem, that person is mean, that person's going to hurt you. And if you think about it in that context, it serves a purpose, right? Its purpose is to ward you off danger. The downside is it is overactive, especially if we've never done any work in this space, and it's telling us that things are dangerous when they're not. And so we do this work that we're going to go through today to get our inner critic back under control and to really start to calm it down. Our inner critic tends to show up when we're in environments where we don't feel particularly welcome, safe, or comfortable. And the reality is we work in environments where we're not always going to feel safe, comfortable, or welcome. You know, these are outdated leadership models. They are dominated by men and by historical male role models that make masculine leadership right. And we grow up with this feedback that tells us to be more like men. But then when we are, we're told that they don't like it. And that's why we have to start to lead just like ourselves. And so when we're in environments, like these outdated leadership models where we don't feel particularly welcome, it's problematic, and it puts a whole heap of barriers up for women and their confidence, because, historical leadership is built for and designed by men. Role models of successful leaders are male. And that's not to say that men are the problem. Men are not the problem. The system and the patriarchy is the issue, and the effect that it has on women is the issue. And so we are, told to behave more like these historical role models of success. The problem is they're men, and people don't want women to act like men. They want women to act like women. They just don't know what that means. And so when you're getting this feedback along the lines of be more confident, you seem arrogant, speak up more, you're talking too much, this kind of feedback is really problematic for our confidence and for our clarity of how we should be showing up and what we should be doing. And in fact, there's 4 main barriers that this throws up. The first one is this unclear personal anchors. So unless we really understand who we are and what we stand for and what we're about, then it means that we can't show up with this really strong, grounded energy. The second one is our intentions don't necessarily match our actions or the perceptions of others. And this is about historical blind spots that grow up and misaligned feedback that takes us down the wrong path of trying things that aren't actually the root cause of the fundamental issue. And so we develop these habits and these blind spots over time that don't serve us and we're not aware of. So removing those and getting clarity on, both how we want to show up and then how we are showing up removes that next barrier. The third barrier is the inner critic. It is on default, running the show, telling you how shit you are, how ugly, your shoes are terrible, you don't look good in that skirt, you're so fat today, whatever it is for you, all of this awful things being said to you all of the time, just tearing you down. And trying to shut it up is not the solution there, and we'll talk about that. And then the fourth barrier to confidence is not knowing where you're going and not having clarity of what your future holds. And obviously that is outside of our control in so many ways. But if we don't even know what we want to start with, or we're ambitious but we think that we don't want to go down a certain path because it doesn't feel right, but really that's what we want, then it is going to start to erode that confidence for us. So when we work through these 4 steps, we really start to step wholly into ourselves and become more confident and have more clarity And that is where our powerful leadership lies and where our personal power lies. And I'm doing this workshop with you today on the inner critic and owning your inner critic because this is a great one to get you started. If you do nothing else of these 4 things, at least getting your inner critic out of the way is going to restore your energy, make your leadership feel more sustainable, identify your grounded confidence to be able to speak up in difficult situations and take back control of what you can. And this is a really important topic because when you look at what affects women's confidence at work, the inner critic is the number 1 ranked thing. And a close second and third is fear of failure and fear of judgment of others. And you cannot tell me that those are not tied up with your inner critic. So, these are big ticket items for eroding women's confidence at work. And when we haven't got the confidence and the clarity of these things, it means that we lose control of what is in our control. And so the circle of control means that we have a small circle of control that is the things that we can control in our thoughts, our actions, our words, our behavior, our mindset, our mood. Those are the things that are entirely in our control. And if we don't feel like we have control of them or we're not taking control of them, then we can't influence. And we've got a small circle of influence as well, right? We've got this area where we can influence other people's behavior, their thoughts and actions. We can influence policies and procedures. We can influence our boss and their opinion of us. We can influence our peers. We want to have this control to have a broader sphere of influence. And then we have what's outside of our control or our areas of concern. And these are things that we don't have control over and we can't influence, but we need to understand what they are and be able to go back to where we do control. So, if you have a bad boss who makes your life miserable, or if you don't have psychological safety, or you've got terrible work conditions where it's unsafe, if you don't feel like you have that circle of control, you're going to become lost in those things that are out of your control instead of being able to come back and say, I can't control that I have a terrible boss, but I can control where I choose to work. And so this inner critic is telling us, don't speak up. Don't address that issue. Don't move because this might be better than that. Don't do whatever else it is that you would like to do with your life that will give you back this control, because it's undermining and stripping away our confidence all of the time. And so I want you to take back ownership of your inner critic today and reclaim that control over what is in your control to be able to influence those things that you can and make decisions about those areas that you can't control. Are they things that you can accept, or do you go back to those areas of control where you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take action and leave versus I'm going to shift my mindset around what this issue is. So there are 5 steps in owning your inner critic, and really they come down to catch it, release it, celebrate it. But first you have to recognize it. You have to recognize who your inner critic is, what it's saying, when it's active, and what's happening. And then, you build that awareness of your inner critic, and you do that through practice. So you consistently practice catching your inner critic in action and having that awareness raise and raise and raise. And then you have some self-compassion. And this is micro self-compassion. So please don't turn this off and be like, oh, it's just for the hippies. This is not sitting on a mountain, omming and doing the full meditation vibes. You can do that if that's your jam, but that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about micro moments. All of these are micro moments and micro habits that you put in place. They don't add to your day. They don't require an hour. They just need you to quickly move through. And then once you do those 3 things, you take action. And by taking action, you start to collect evidence of your success and of your competence, your capability, all of the greatness about you, and you celebrate those wins. And when you put those 5 things in place, you start to build momentum, right? But until you recognize who your inner critic is and where it is active in your life, you can't move through these. So this is 100% me. My inner critic is brutal. So I recently misspelt someone's name, and I apologized to them profusely because it is a terrible thing to do and it's very, very rude. And then I was like, I can't believe I did that. You're a terrible person. How could you possibly not spell their name correctly? This is awful. You should be ashamed. And I had to catch myself and be like, whoa, whoa. It is a reasonable mistake. And I am embarrassed that it happened. But I'm not at risk here. That person hasn't cut me off never to speak to me again. They might think I'm a bit of a dick for not being able to, copy their name clearly from the email they sent me. But I'm not going to burn in hell for this. And then the flip side of it is I do something incredible. So I'm putting on this summit. I've never done anything like that before. I'm doing this session with you, which frankly is a little intimidating, just staring down a screen with no one on the other side of it. And the best I can come up with is like, oh yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I'm like, no, this is cool. I am providing real value for people in the world, and it is free, and it will make meaningful shifts in their lives. But my inner critic has me just skimming straight over that and going straight to the negatives and hyper-focusing on that, And that's why being able to catch it and catch the inner critic in action is so important. Because every time this happens, I have this micro shift of like, you're doing something cool. It's great. Go. And what I'm sure you can pick up on here is that this is not about perfection. I am not an inner critic free guru who is preaching to you from the mountaintop and saying you'll be cured forever. This is an ongoing practice. But what I hope you also see is that I am a successful, confident, calm human. And I'm achieving things beyond probably my own wildest dreams at times because I'm able to take these actions and I'm able to move forward. And at its worst, your inner critic is just going to stop you and stop you and stop you. And every time it stops you, it's eroding your confidence and insulting you along the way. And I want more for you in life than that. So we are going to go and do an exercise now, and I'm going to ask you to close your eyes and step through a series of questions. As we do that, I'm hoping that you have moved to an office or a space where you can sit quietly and do this. This can feel really confronting, and I absolutely understand that. I'm asking you to do this exercise with me as a one-time thing to help move you through what is quietly destroying you from the inside without you even realizing it. So when you're ready, I'd like you to close your eyes down. And as you do that, I want you to take a deep breath in for the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and out for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and a second for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and out for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. As we go through this exercise today, I'm going to leave some long pauses because I want you to have time to think. Please trust that I'm still here and I'm still interested. I'm just creating some space. And now I want you to call to mind a recent moment when you were doubting yourself. Maybe you were doing something new or unfamiliar. Perhaps it was your first time. Maybe you hesitated to speak up or to take a chance. Perhaps you felt criticized at work, or you were trying out and experimenting with new ways of getting results. Or maybe you were just working with new people. Whatever it was, I want you to take a moment now and call a situation to mind. And I want the focus to be on you. So not thinking about what other people did or were doing, and not thinking about the situation as a whole. Just focus in on yourself and your experience of that moment. I want you to think about the emotions that you were experiencing and how you felt in your body. Could you feel tingles of adrenaline in your arms or fingers? Perhaps some tension in your jaw or shoulders? Or maybe your chest was tight or your throat felt blocked. Whatever that feeling was, allow it to be present for you now. And imagine yourself back in that moment. What voices or other noises can you hear in your head? What are the words that you hear? What's the tone of voice that's being used? Is it aggressive, derisive, agitating, scornful, mean? Think about the tone of voice. Is it high-pitched or low-pitched, this voice? Is it speaking fast or slow? Or is there some sort of accent? Does it sound like a voice you've heard before? Is it familiar, perhaps? Can you name who it sounds like? Maybe it's you, maybe it's someone from your past. See if you can identify whose voice it is. Are there any particular words or phrases that you notice or that stand out? And now as you sit, replaying that moment, how does it feel listening to your inner critic at work? What are the emotions that you're experiencing as you listen to that inner critic? How do you feel in your body now? When you're ready, I'll ask you to open your eyes back up and rejoin me in this space. And I want to say, if you're feeling really emotional or you're crying right now, that is a really normal response to this activity. This sitting and hearing what we're saying to ourselves can be brutal, and it hurts. And I'm going to ask you to sit with that for just a little bit longer. And I want you to grab a pen and paper, and I want you to write down what you heard, what the voice sounded like, what the words were, and how this experience was for you. And then I want you to say out loud those words and phrases that you heard. And so I'm going to put on some background music, and we're going to do that for just 2 minutes. For 2 minutes, want you jotting down the experience today of who it was, what it sounded like, what it felt like, so that you can really understand this experience. If you have the workbook, I absolutely encourage you to write it down in there. I'll be back in 2 minutes' time. Just a couple more seconds there, and then we're going to come back together. So before we keep going, we're going to have a little dance break. And if you're not into dancing, that's okay, but I want you to at least stand up and shake it off. Now, doing this with headphones is not easy, but you're coming with me, and we're getting the tunes on, and away we go. Just shake it out. Whatever that looks like for you, just shake it off. And just appreciate a little moment to let this move through your body. Okay? So, hopefully, no little shake. Do it now. Last chance. Forgive me. I'm sure the audio was terrible as I did that. But having a little dance break, I am confident most of you who got up, moved, and felt that energy shift will feel better for it. So if you didn't do that, please jump up and do it now. So before we move off this exercise entirely, thank you. I know it's painful. You don't have to do this all of the time. This is almost a one and done activity to get you connected to recognizing who and what your inner critic sounds like and when it's firing off. And I just want you to take a second now, and I want you to think about what surprised you. What did it feel like to say out loud what your inner critic is saying to you on default, and just running in the background? And would you ever speak or say those things to another person? And so we're going to just take a second and I'm going to ask you those things again and provide a little bit of space in between. And I want you to really think about it and say it out loud or write it down. What surprised you in that? What was unexpected or unknown to you? What did it feel like for you when you said out loud what your inner critic was saying to you? And then finally, would you ever speak or say those things to someone that you loved? I know I would never speak to someone the way that I speak to myself. My inner critic is actually my brother. Bless him, he does not speak to me this way. But its common refrain is, "Come on, Steve-o." And as soon as I hear, "Come on, Steve-o," I know whatever comes next is going to be awful. And it's always things that I would never say to a friend or loved one. And fortunately, things that my brother has never said to me either. And I like to call that out because if your voice is someone from your life, from your past or your present, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're the problem, right? Or that they speak to you that way. It's just something that's showing up in a pattern of what you're hearing now. And if we wanted to go deep on a psychological level, I'm sure we could track it back, but that's not what this is about. This is about simply recognizing and hearing that voice so that you can become more and more and more aware of it. So, speaking of awareness, let's talk about what that looks like. And so obviously you now know what it sounds like. You know what your inner critic is saying to you, how it sounds, what its opening refrain or common phrases might be. So you want to start catching it. And this is not a big deal. It is just going, "Oh, that was my inner critic." And sometimes you won't notice it for ages. So you might be procrastinating on something, putting something off, not speaking up, feeling unsure, and then suddenly you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, my inner critic is in action." However long it takes is entirely normal. It will get shorter and shorter to recognize it as you go along. And so just keep noticing and catching your inner critic in action. That is the first part of this process. Then as soon as you catch it, you want to celebrate it. And just like we got up and danced out our feelings, or badly danced them out, depending on your opinions, you want to also move, right? So you want to actually give yourself the reward of a celebration. Well done, Bron. Woo! Go you, girlfriend. Little fist pump, high five, whatever feels good. If I'm in the car, then you'll see me doing these ones occasionally, just like, "Yes, queen." Because I'm stoked that I've actually figured out what's blocking me, what's stopping me, what's in my way. So allow yourself to actually move with it and actually celebrate this, because that is an important part of rewiring your neural pathways. Our amygdala is firing off this signal that we have to be careful, be cautious, be worried. And so the relief to that and the rewiring is actually this moment of celebration. And then I want you to take a deep breath. One just simple in and out. And that will move it through your body. And then I want you to take whatever action it is. And every time you own your inner critic in this way, I want you to collect that as evidence of your success. Every action that you take is evidence of your success in your life, in your career, in owning your inner critic. Whatever it is, own it, celebrate it, collect it as evidence. Because at the moment, it's very likely that your inner critic is collecting evidence of failure and that you are going through life seeing all of the things that you do wrong and all of the areas that you're failing rather than all of your successes and all of the great things that you do. So the more you capture and reflect on those moments, the better. And so this whole process takes 10 seconds. Oh, there's my inner critic. Woot! Well done, me. That's it. That is all I'm asking you to do. And that simple action will get you started. However, there are times when your inner critic is going to go running rampant, and it's really going to be a huge block for you. And when that happens, you need to go a little bit bigger with your self-compassion. And so we go from 10 seconds to 2 to 5 minutes. And again, that's all I'm asking from you. Self-compassion is not just for the hippies, and it's not just for the weak. It's not for other people. It is for everyone. It is loving kindness that we give ourselves. And we give it to ourselves not because we are deserving for some external reason, but because we are deserving for existing. You know, we exist, therefore we deserve loving kindness. When you get into the practice, it is not hard to give yourself loving kindness in small ways. Right? So again, I'm not asking you to go and climb a mountain and om your way to Zen. All I'm asking from you is small incremental shifts though. And the reason I'm doing that is because that is enough. So if you want to go and start new habits and practices, great. This is micro, because we are talking about sustainable leadership. We are talking about things that you can immediately implement into your life. We're talking about things that will move you through pain and into pleasure really quickly. And so the first one is a self-compassionate letter. And we're actually going to stop in a minute and we're going to do that. And the self-compassionate letter is simply you sitting down and writing a letter to yourself like you would if you were writing to a friend or a loved one. So if I was writing to myself and I was addressing this forum and this summit and my inner critic and the way it had been behaving, I would sit down and I would probably write something along the lines of, "Dear Bron, you have learnt so many new things through this experience. You should be so incredibly proud of everything that you've done to be able to present this here today. The good that you are doing in the world is worth what you've done, and you know that. I'm stoked that you were able to pull this together. Thank you for being you. Love, me." And I probably sounded a little facetious at the end there, but actually just saying that felt amazing. And so we're going to take 2 minutes, again, right now, and I want you to think about the situation that you called to mind before, and then I want you to write yourself this self-compassionate letter. I want you to write to yourself like you would if you were writing to your best friend who is in exactly the same situation, or if you were writing to the person who's closest to you. And I want you to write exactly what you would say to them. You know, I want you to give yourself what you would give them. And so again, I'm going to pop on a little bit of music in the background, and we're just going to take 2 minutes. It's a quick jotting down of the loving kindness. And should you find that this is really hard, I want you to catch your inner critic in action telling you it's a problem. I want you to celebrate catching it. I want you to take a deep breath. I want you to release it, and then I want you to take this action. This is your very first opportunity to practice catching your inner critic in action. 2 minutes, off we go. just wrapping that up now and coming back to me. So the next one that I want to talk to you about is self-soothing touch. And this is a gorgeous way to give yourself self-compassion. And I have to admit, when I first heard about it, I was like, boo, I don't want to. But when I started actually doing it regularly, it rocked my world. And so this is giving yourself a little hug. You know, nothing dramatic. It is holding your hand in your face. It is putting a hand over your heart and a hand over your tummy and taking a deep breath. Or it is rubbing your hands or stroking your hands in a way that feels good for you. And because the cool thing about self-soothing touch is that you don't have to be hugged by someone else for your brain to release the dopamine and all the good feel-good chemicals. Your brain can't tell if it's you or another person hugging you. So when you do hug yourself, you actually release all of those same feel-good hormones. And this is a great way to give yourself a little loving kindness. I use it a lot in meetings. I'll rub my hands together just as a little moment of kindness to myself and a little hit of bravery. These are things that you can do subtly in seconds. The next one, reframe self-criticism with curiosity. So one of the things about our inner critic, as I said earlier, is it has come through evolution of protecting us and keeping us safe. And a lot of us are really attached to our inner critic. We think that that is what it's doing. It's like, no, I really am in danger. And so when it comes up, instead of fighting it, telling it to shut up, you know, just ignoring it, all of these other ideas that you hear around the place, if you feel really attached to your inner critic, then get curious and ask your inner critic what it's protecting you from. What are you protecting me from? And generally, you're going to find that whatever comes up allows you to move forward. And the threat might be real. Right, again, it came about for good reason. And so there's nothing wrong with reframing with curiosity, as long as you do that and you get real about what it tells you. You know, so if it starts to catastrophize, you know, oh, well, if you show up and you do this forum and you talk about the inner critic, people might hate you. Yep, okay, they could hate me. Most people don't, and it's an important topic. And if some people don't like me, I'd rather be some people's, you know, shot of tequila rather than everyone's cup of tea. So let's do this. Just simply reframing with curiosity helps you to understand what's actually going on, and then that helps release you to move forward. The fourth one, mindful breathing. And so this is just the same breaths that we've already done today. In for the count of 5, out for the count of 5. And with each one, you're breathing in loving kindness and letting go of negativity. Breathing in loving kindness, letting go of negativity. And there's real pleasure in that moment and that reset. And the fifth one is a self-compassionate mantra. And so this is not staring in the mirror, doing the old, you are enough, I love you, you're the best. If it doesn't feel real to you, there's no point doing it. It's about creating a mantra that allows you to give yourself loving kindness. So for me, I often use, despite any flaws, I'm worthy of love. Despite any mistakes, I'm worthy of love. And for me, you know, it means a lot. I'm not a perfectionist by any means. Anyone who's ever worked with me probably knows that. But I am someone who has very high standards and I believe in excellence. And so I take mistakes very seriously whilst not expecting perfection. And so being able to say that, you know, I'm still worthy, I'm still lovable, I'm still a good human, even when I make mistakes, means a lot. And so that's what this self-compassionate mantra is about. It is about you finding something that feels real and meaningful for you and allows you to move through this inner critic. All of these activities are in the workbook that you will have from the link, and I'll send it out again after this session today. I really encourage you to get involved with these. You know, when your inner critic is out of control and that quick release doesn't work, this is a way that you can take moments. So again, some of these are 10, 20, 30 seconds. You know, some of them are a little bit longer, but nothing here is more than 5 or 10 minutes, because this is about sustainable leadership practices, right? Things that you can put in place and get benefit from immediately. So we have gone through this today and talked about recognizing your inner critic, building your awareness and action, giving yourself some self-compassion, taking action, and celebrating your wins. What you want to walk out of here with in your head is catch it, release it, take action. Celebrate. Right? If you do those first 3 and then add on the 4th, you're going to start getting real traction and real momentum in taking back control. And when you have control, you have more influence and you have the ability to address areas of concern. But when you let go of that control, because your inner critic is eroding any confidence or clarity you have to own it, then it is damaging you and it is holding you back. And it will continue to erode your energy and your time and your ability to achieve everything that you want in your life. So that is my ask for you. Catch it, release it, take action, and then celebrate it. So as we wrap up today, I'm going to ask you one last time to sit with some cool tunes, and I want you to write down one thing I'm taking away today is, and we're just going to do 1 minute. One thing I'm taking away today is. Okay. Hopefully you've all written down something meaningful for you that you've taken away from today. The full workbook is here. Use this QR code. You can grab your copy. I encourage you to do so you get more detail about each of those self-compassion exercises and you can go deeper on all of the work that we've done today. From here, we've got another 3 sessions this week on different topics with each of our coaches, and then we're going to come together on Friday in a live Q&A at a roundtable. If I haven't been able to answer your questions in the live chat today, then come along then, ask us live. We'll also be talking about how all of our sessions tie together in the context of sustainable leadership for 2026. I'm proud of you for being here. I am cheering you on always as you do this work. And if you want to know more or talk about it, I do love a coffee date. So feel free to reach out. Otherwise, have an incredible rest of your day. Bye now.